Shalom, everybody. This is Genesis chapter 15. There are 21 verses. We're going to look at verse 2. It says here, Abram said, Master and Lord, what will you give me? Whereas I am departing without a child, but the son of Masek, my homeborn female slave, is this Eliezer of Damascus, is my heir, in brackets. The MT, it says, what will you give me, seeing I go childless? And the steward of my house is this Eliezer of Damascus. But clearly it says here, he's not simply a steward of his house. He is the son of Masek, who is his homeborn female slave, was born in Abram's household. This female slave was born into his household. Her name was Masek, and that's her son named Eliezer of Damascus. So that's an important detail that is omitted. Verse 11, it says here, Abraham sat down by these divided parts of the animals, whereas in the MT, he drove them away. Verse 13, it says, enslave, afflict. They shall enslave them and afflict them. Whereas it says regarding Abraham's descendants, they shall serve them and they shall afflict them 400 years. So what is missing? It says here, and humble them. So clearly they did not include humble. They only focused on serving and afflicting them. But it says here they will enslave them, not just serve them, afflict them as well, as it is mentioned in the MT, but also humble them, the third thing. Verse 14, they shall come forth here. They shall come forth here. They'll return to Canaan. So they're going to come back here with much property, but it says here, and afterward they shall come out. Doesn't say where they're going, just come out. Verse 15 says, you will be nourished in a good old age. So we're talking about him dying, but he will be nourished, well fed in a good old age. But the MT says, you shall be buried in a good old age. Verse 16 reiterates that 14 is true in both versions. So we see they shall return here to the land of Canaan. What does the MT say? They shall return here. They shall come here again. So just contradicted, not only contradicted, but just left out that detail that they shall come out, but it doesn't say to where, but in 16 it does say, whereas the Septuagint is pretty much consistent throughout the text saying that they will come out here. They shall come forth here. They're going to come out to here where you are now. And 16 just reiterates that point. Verse 17 is an interesting verse. Not that it's interesting in the difference, but it's interesting to reflect on what this looks like. Behold, a smoking furnace, lamps of fire. It says, behold, a smoking furnace and lamps of fire, which pass between these divided pieces. The MT says, burning lamp, smoking furnace, and a burning lamp. So just one lamp, not multiple lamps, which passed between these pieces. So I submit to you, again, speculation, but because it does say lamps, I would submit to you that in the middle is the furnace, and on both sides are the lamps, similar to, I think you have the Ark of the Covenant, and you have two angels on both sides. So that's the kind of picture I'm imagining. But if you don't have the best imagination, this is what an oil lamp looked like back in ancient times. It looked like this. Like there, right there, you see it animated. And, you think of Aladdin, his magic lamp, that story, and that's what lamps look like in ancient times. So, but the light comes out right at the tip there, right at the end. So that's what I imagine the lamps would look like, or at least what Abraham saw. And in terms of the furnace, a lot of us picture this contraption in the basement, which is made of steel or iron, and like a fireplace. But it's important to remember that ancient furnaces did not look like that, and they were not that size. They were massive. Recall the story of Daniel and his three friends, specifically the three friends who were thrown into a furnace. They can't be thrown into a little contraption. It had to be massive. And if you look up what furnaces look like back in those times, they were actually called blast furnaces. And yes, they were this large. Let me just move this over. They were a big edifice like this. And yeah, they would seal up the sides so that you can't get out, you can't escape. And that explains why those heating up this furnace 10 times hotter were engulfed in the flames, because this is a big contraption. So if a flame escaped, you would, like a flamethrower, would be engulfed in the flames. So you can see how they can trap uh, Daniel's three friends, but they can likewise make out some kind of figures in there. For instance, if it was an overhead, if they had an overhead view, they could see who's in it. And I'm guessing the king was able to see from above, or through whatever vantage point he had. He could see there were not just three people, there were four people. The person dressed in white, as was described. But anyway, it's important to notice this. So Abraham actually saw like a huge structure. It wasn't just a little, something as tall up to your waist or less than that. It was a big structure, and then the lamps on both sides, maybe they were bigger lamps, but anyway, they were lamps, burning lamps, and you had a furnace in the middle passing through these pieces. Interesting. And the last verse I want to focus on or look at is verse 21. It says here, all these groups mentioned, and it says the Hivites. But there are 5 groups. In the MT, there's only 4. Hivites are omitted. So I just wanted to cover this chapter, Genesis 15, because I feel like it would be amiss not to do at least 2 today, even though this is the end of the Shabbat. But just wanted to get this video done. And, we don't know how much time is left until all these things, I can't do this anymore. So I think it's important that although I am covering a chapter a day, if I can and there's an opportunity to do so, I strive to, cover as much as possible at a quicker rate, but still not diminish in the quality of and my thoroughness of looking, line by line, word by word, looking at the differences and preferably, the biggest differences. But there are minor differences that may seem minor, but when you look at the big picture, they aren't minor, because all thrown together, if you have one minor difference in terms of the language used, it's not a huge difference. But then when you have 1,000 and you pile them up together, then yeah, you do have a problem, because it is a principle of compounding all this stuff together, and when you look at the big picture, it's not the same story anymore. So that's all I have to say for today. This is Genesis 15. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your time. Jehovah bless you and make your way prosperous. Until next time, I pray that He'll give you a heart to fear Him, to love Him with all your mind, all your strength, all your soul, and to love each other as Yahushua loved us. The 2 greatest commandments. And until next time, we'll look at Genesis chapter 16. I believe there are 50 chapters in Genesis, so we're almost halfway. We're about more than a quarter through. And it's been a pleasure to do this. And so till next time, Genesis 16. Thank you.